In this video, I'm going to show you how you can recode variables into new variables. This is a very important step in any survey analysis. This is because when we design surveys and we ask questions with discrete answers, we like to give respondents quite a lot of choice. This improves the accuracy of our survey questions. Unfortunately, having variables with a large number of categories also reduces the statistical power of our data, and sometimes it can be quite difficult to analyse variables which have a large number of categories. So recoding variables is a very important stage in survey analysis. We want to be able to simplify our data set. Now, we don't have ethnic group in this particular sample, but ethnic group is a very good example. You'll be very used to answering questions about ethnicity, and you understand that there's a large number of categories that you can now choose from in the standard question. But when we come to analyse ethnic group, we often can't deal with that large number of responses, so we often recode it into a smaller number of groups. So that's a variable that is often recoded. In this particular survey, I'm going to show you how to recode the variable, how much interest do you have in politics? This question was asked, just going to click on the value labels here. So this question was asked using a Likert style approach, and Likert style questions are also a variable that we tend to recode. So with a Likert style approach, we give respondents a range of different options. These can range, there can be 4 values, 5 values, 6, 7 values. It depends on the Likert style scale that you have chosen. So for the question, how much interest do you have in politics? Respondents could answer a great deal, quite a lot, some not very much, or none at all. And there are also some missing categories. For those for the question was not applicable, and also those who answered don't know, and those respondents who refused to answer the question. So you've got quite a number of different responses here. What we often do with Likert style questions is that we convert them into binary variables. So I want to convert these responses into respondents who have quite a lot or a great deal of interest in politics, those who you say are interested in politics, as opposed to those who have very little or no interest. So I'm going to suggest that I'm going to draw the line between 1 and 2 here. I suppose this answer some could go in either way. It could be seen as those who have an interest in politics or those who don't. It really is the sitting on the fence. I'm going to put this in the not very much interest in politics group. So what I want to do is I want to calculate a new variable where I recode what these values 1 and 2 into the same category, and then recode the values 3, 4, and 5 into the same category. I'll leave the missings as missings. So in order to recode, I go to the transform menu. And as you can see, there are 2 choices for recode into the same variable or recode into different variables. I always recommend that you create new variables. So unless you have very good reason for wanting to permanently recode a variable, it's always best to keep the raw data. So we're going to recode into a different variable. So here I have the dialog box for recode. And I have to specify the input variable, the variable that I'm going to recode, and I'm going to have to tell SPSS the new variable that I'm going to be creating. So I'm going to select the how much interest do you have in politics variable and put that into the dialog box there. I then have to tell SPSS what this new variable is going to be called, and I'm simply going to call it, for the variable name, the original variable name is politics, so I'm going to call it rec for recode politics. So that's going to be its name, and the value I'm also going to put rec there so I can recognize that it's a recode. How much interest do you have in politics? Okay, so I'm going to have to remember to click on change. I've still got a question mark in the middle box. So when I click on change, you can see that politics is going to be changed into rec politics. I now have to tell SPSS how to do the recoding. And now I have to click on the old and new values button. So I'm going to click on that and I get a new dialog box. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy all of my missing variables. So I'm going to use the system or user missing, and I'm going to change those into system missing. So I'm going to keep the missings as missings. Just to explain how this dialog box works, on the left hand side we have the old values. So we select the old values and then we tell SPSS what the new values are going to be. And once we've selected on either side here, we then have to click on the add button. You will forget to click on the add button. It's a very easy mistake to make. So if your recoding doesn't work, it's possibly because you've forgotten to click on the add button. SPSS will often alert you, well, it should alert you if you forget to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recode 1 through 2. So 1 through 2, so those are the people who've got a great deal or quite a lot of interest in politics, and I'm going to code those as 1. So that's 1 through 2 is going to be 1. And then 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to recode as 2. So 3 through 5, I'm going to recode that as 2. So click on add. I can also use these range lowest through values, but because I've got some missings, I want to be particularly careful. So 1 to 2 is going to be recoded into 1, and 3 through 5 is going to be recoded into 2. I'm going to keep my missing values. So I can click on continue. So I've done my old and new values. I can click on OK. So I would recommend now, before you do any analysis, that you check how that recode has been done. So let's just go and have a look at a frequency. I should find my new variable at the bottom there. That's the recode, and I'm just going to have a look about how that has been carried out. I can see that I've got the value 1 and 2, so it looks okay. To double check, I can also do a cross tabulation of the old and the new. So I can put how much interest you have in politics into the rows and the reclassification into the columns. I don't need to bother with statistics and cells because I'm only just doing this to check that it's been recoded correctly. And I can see here that it has been recoded correctly. The ones have gone into the value 1 in my recode and 2, 3, 4, so that's okay. One thing that I do want to do before I move on is to just give some value labels for the recoded variable. So I'm just going to go on the window here. I'm going to go back to the teaching data set. And as you can see, I've got no values for this recoded variable. So I'm just going to click on that box, which for some reason hasn't going to work. So I'm going to try it again. It's because this is a new version of SPSS and I'm not familiar with it. So just ignore my small error there. So I'm going to put the value 1 in the value box, and then I'm going to do the label sum or some. No, hang on, it wasn't some. It was a great deal quite a lot of interest, and then I can click on that green box there and hopefully that will give me another value. 2 is some or no interest. Okay, so I've put in my 2 new values there. If I click on OK, I can see that I've now got the values in that value column. So I'm now ready to run the cross-tabulation now between the interest in politics and climate change. So I'm going to go back to the cross-tabulation. This time I'm going to reset because I don't want to keep what I'd had in previously. So I'm going to put climate change again in the rows. I'm going to put my new variable into the columns. I've reset the crosstabs dialog box. I'm going to have to go back and click on chi-squared. I'm going to go back and click on the percentage columns, and now I am ready to run this cross-tabulation. And you can see here that these people who have a lot of interest in politics are less likely to believe that climate change isn't happening, are much less likely, you can see, less likely to believe that it's happening and it's nothing to do with human behaviour, and are therefore more likely to believe that climate change is happening compared to people who have less interest in politics. And if we scroll down and look at the results of the chi-square test, you can see that the p-value, the significance value, is less than 0.001. So that you're more likely to believe that climate change is happening due to human activities if you have either a great deal or quite a lot of interest in politics, than if you only have some or no interest in politics. And this is significant at a 95% value. So you can see the value here of being able to recode data because it makes your analysis simpler and easy to deal with.